Hello, this is Ryan McAbee with Pixel Consulting. I'm joined by Pat McGrew of the McGrew Group, and of course, our friends at IWCO, Carol and Tony. So we're here today to talk a little bit about our case study that we worked with Tony and Carol on in relation to how they're using Solimar tools and products, and also just a little bit of an update on what's going on at IWCO. So I guess probably, Carol, the first place to start and the best place is just give us a top level of how you fit into IWCO and what you guys are doing over there today in case there's folks that are listening in that aren't aware.
So my role here at IWCO Direct is a Director of Production Technology Applications. What that really means is we support on this team all the applications really from data receipt, art receipt, all the way through mailing. So where Solimar really comes into play, being the post-composition focused and file management areas, is after our composition, obviously, which we've been a long time inspired driving that side. And then we feed everything into our production platform for primarily right now for the case study is our new Hewlett-Packard printers that we are going through with our digital conversion. So bringing in HP 250s and HP 490s.
And Carol, just out of curiosity, that process is obviously you continue to invest in the business over the years. It's over a 50-year-old business, but more recently you have gone through that process. Where are you at in that stage of the equipment changeover? Because I know later we're going to get into a little bit about how Solimar's tools have allowed you to implement that change more easily as well.
Yeah, we're quite far down the path right now. So we have Hamburg has all their T250s along with us as well. So it's the T490s left, us as well, meaning Chanhassen. The 490 install is going to start here in a couple of weeks in Hamburg side and be live beginning of July. And then ours will start end of June and be live towards the end of July. So then our conversion to all those digital devices will be on, and essentially our traditional litho print for variable print will be gone. It'll be no longer printing forms and running them through lasers afterwards. So it's a exciting time. I'm very much looking forward to it and adding some great flexibility and opening us up to using additional tool sets that weren't available before. In this process, we're eliminating our AFP file formats. We won't need those, and our AJP file formats, because the old traditional Canon lasers will be offline, and all of our traditional old school Cytex Kodak devices will be offline too. So kind of dating myself that I didn't even know what those.
Oh no, I worked with those. We're good. We're in the same universe. So Tony, where are you fitting into the whole process?
Well, I'm an application engineer. I handle all the print systems, the front end systems. I handled the ones for Canon. I handle the ones for the Screen USAs that we have. And now I handle the ones for the HPs. And I also am involved with the Solimar on the SPD side and the Rubica side. So, and we're also looking at SolarTrack too. So, I mean, I support all of those products.
You get to play with all the toys.
I get all the toys and I love it. They're good tools. They're really good tools.
So you guys told us this amazing story about how you've been able to leverage the software tools to sort of rebuild your quality control process. I was wondering if you could share that again, because it made my jaw drop.
Sure. So what we do is we had some issues with quality in the plant. And basically what was happening is we, like other letter shops, produce X amount of production records for quality control. Well, they were not being marked in any such way. They were really like a production piece, and they were getting out into the mail sometimes through the bindery. So what we did is we looked to Solimar to help us, do something to mark these. And they said that there was a module that, we could use, and another product called Rubica to, mark them with a watermark. So we designed the watermark, and basically it just says IWCO quality control. And we take a production file when it comes into SPD, and we cut off about 25 records from the very beginning of that production segment, and we send it through Rubica, and Rubica marks it with this IWCO quality control watermark. It then sends it back and it puts it into a holding queue. We have two queues. We have ready for print, which is actually the ones that are going to go and be printed, then run through the bindery and then be placed into the mail stream. The quality control, they're a separate file and they can be run individually from the production thing. So, and they're marked. So it's very rare that anything gets out into the mail. And if they do get out into the mail, they're marked. So it's not like a duplicate or anything. So that's what we did.
What was the driving force of Tony? We've all seen quality control pieces escape the mail stream. Was there a major driving force that caused you to want to really get that process under control?
Yes. Well, like I said, some of those quality controls that were being reprinted, because what they would do is they would take a production segment, they would run X amount of records out, then they would back the file up on the printer, and then they would start the production run. Well, so now what you have actually duplicate records of that first run that they did. Sometimes they would get out into the mail stream. So then you would get a client call and say, hey, we found duplicates.
Got it twice.
And that's what exactly. And in this industry, that's a big, big no-no. And that's what we wanted to solve. And we did. We were able to solve that. So now they're marked with QC. Information has been, overwritten, and we take care of it that way. So now they can be handled separately. They can be placed on the beginning of the roll. If they go through the bindery on a production roll, they're still have that watermark on them, and they can be identified and pulled out easily.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
And this also allowed an efficiency gain for production, not having to back up the print file. So there's additional time saved, at least 5 minutes in print segment, not trying to back that segment up, let alone the fact that we could actually accidentally mail duplicates as well. So there was a little time savings gain in the efficiency of the QC process as well.
Right. And now that you're moving to these really high speed printers, that's going to be really critical for you.
Yes, it'll be right. The amount of speed that these are running at are significant. The 250s are 500 feet a minute, at two across, and the 490s are going to be 1,000 feet a minute at 4 across. So, yeah, you really, time is of the essence with these devices.
It's big.
So I know that when we were talking, and I found this quite interesting because we don't often associate software with necessarily solving a hardware issue. But that's kind of what you found in the equipment transition that you were making when it came to the cutting. I think it's an inline cutting solution where you had fixed blades as part of the process. And instead of having to replace the blades or change out the equipment, you found kind of an interesting way to handle that through some of the Solimar tools, correct?
Yeah, so it was kind of an approach we had to take because we had multiple pieces of, 4-color digital print technology on the floor. We were running screen printers, Canon printers, and HP at the same time. HP is a little different compared to Canon and screen. The Canon screen allowed us to configure to be able to print on a gap. So we could print on the gap our color refresh bars. HP could not print on the gap that we provided. So basically our chip out area, they had to add an additional length to the form. So that means we were stuck in a situation where scheduling was going to have to tell us what printers and actually manage down to the printer, not just output for a job. And that's when we looked to Solimar for a solution, and they came up with their scale and shift module that allowed us to not have to change a composition output, that it would only be driven by hot folders going to HP and adjust the chip out area so that when that extra width got put back in on the HPs, we could utilize the same print files across all devices and just handle it differently on the back end side versus having scheduling, trying to design different composition output.
That's fantastic. And Tony, I'm curious from the more technical side of that. I think you went through kind of iterations of trying to find a proper solution and the most simple solution for that. And what did it mean at the end of the day to be able to implement it without having to change your upstream composition tool or basically your forms and templates there versus being able to handle it through kind of the back end process through Solimar?
Well, it was a very simple task to do, other than the table that we actually built. The table is quite involved. We started at a certain point and then we incremented it by 1/8 of an inch. for every form size. And then we also took the width of a roll into consideration, and we started at a certain width, and then we worked our way up to the roll width that we know that we've encountered in the past on the other equipment. So the table's quite involved. The table was quite a challenge to put into place, but other than that, it runs. It did not do any type of performance degradation. And the big thing is there was an extreme amount of cost savings to this. And I don't remember the exact number that I gave. I could look it up, but it was in the six figures that saved us, because if we hadn't got this solution from Solimar, we would have had to go on through all of the blades on the cutters and replace them. And they were at a cost of $10,000. I do know that number. And I believe, Carol, what did we have? Like 6 or 8 of the cutters, somewhere in that nature. It could have been a little bit more, but we were talking about 2 locations too. So it was quite a savings. That
it was tens of thousands of dollars, if I remember correctly.
Yes, and we were able to solve it through the scale and shift module that Solimar gives you with Rubica. And like I said, it's a very simple process. It runs, it brings a file in, it takes it, it analyzes it, it takes the chip out, and then when it goes back through the press will add it in, and it gives us what our bindery expects. So our cuts are exactly the same way, and we could transfer those from machine to machine. We could, if we had to move a job from an HP to a screen, there was nothing there that would change. We wouldn't have to go through anything other than what we were going through. And the same thing for the Canons. If we had to change from an HP to a Canon, there was no mathematical calculation or anything like that. It all just fit into behind the scenes. The operators never knew what was going on. They had nothing else to do. They just run the job. So it was a win-win situation all around for us.
So it sounds like you've managed to leverage your Solimar relationship to create absolutely true workflow automation for your sites.
Absolutely. I can't tell you enough and praise Solimar enough that when I call for support, they're always there for me, and they always have a solution. The solution may not be, well, what I want it to be, but there's always a solution, and we have a good working relationship.
I know they're going to be delighted to hear that. Oh. Wonderful. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for taking some time to jump on with us today. Ryan and I so enjoyed talking to you when we were developing the original case study, and hopefully we'll be able to come back to you in some period of time, and after you've gotten all your T490s all implemented, and see if there's anything new that you can share with us.
Sounds great.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.